your manufactured homes are built in a factory. In the case of a double wide, it comes in two pieces. They bring it out, you buy land, you clear the land, you get a nice space for it, you grade it, and then they come out and they actually set it on footers.
What attracted you to this, considering that your personal investments are in singles, duplexes, and triplexes?
This is truly affordable housing. This is something that most people can afford that are working. Generally, you're in for somewhere between 45 and 60.
My mind is going, why would I even do my next flip up here in Canada? Like we said, 60 to 80K. So if you can come up with, I mean, that's almost like a 60, 70 ROI, isn't it?
Hey investors, you're listening to the Investing to Win podcast, the show dedicated to empowering investors to achieve financial freedom and live your best life. This show is committed to offering honest conversation between investors, comments and strategies, real-time market updates, and professional guidance to achieving financial freedom. Investing doesn't have to be super hands-on or complicated. We're all about passive investments with real gains, so you have freedom of time and money. Your host is none other than Garrett Wong, who brings decades of experience in buying, renovating, and managing cash flow investment properties. Thanks for being here, and get ready to invest to win.
Good afternoon. This is Garrett Wong, your host of the Investing to Win podcast. As you can see here, I have another guest in our studio, Shawn Hart. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. So the topic today is mobile home investment. Shawn reached out to me, audience, just because this is quite a unique space. Obviously, this is a real estate investing podcast, but why don't we back up, Shawn, and why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your background and how you came into the space?
Yeah, so I actually started, so at 17, I got hit by a drunk driver, which pretty much ended sports for me, got in a lot of trouble. Went into some dark places for about 5 years and finally, decided one day it just kind of clicked and realized I needed to get my stuff together, actually moved from Florida back up to New York, and I was working 96 hours a week and at a gas station. After that I went to some more blue collar jobs, loading and unloading trailers. And I just kept thinking, like, there has to be a better way. There has to be an easier way than to just constantly break your back for the next dollar. And I found that in real estate. And I actually started out as a long-term investor. So I bought rental properties and we house hacked. And that's how we bought our first 3 properties until the cash flow started building up and we were able to purchase them. And we ended up buying 29 units, enough for me to be able to retire from the trucking industry. I ended up getting my CDL in there. And about a year later, I ended up getting my real estate license. And my goal now is to help people just like myself, especially people that are blue collar, just trying to really save for that retirement and build that retirement and learn to invest differently than just their 401k to be able to have the same opportunity that I've had and show them the way.
Okay. You kind of snapped your fingers. I feel like I went through Back to the Future or The Matrix and missed an entire segment there. Tell me a little bit more about how you went from 0 to 29 units there. I mean, enlighten us a little bit.
So I started out, my wife wanted a house, and I didn't want a mortgage. And so I kind of started doing some research and I found duplexes. And that was kind of the thing was, it was like, hey, we could move into this. And at the time I found out we don't need 20 to 25% down. We only need 3.5% down. So, my wife kind of fought me on it, and her mom was like, that's a fantastic idea. So, of course, mom knows best. So, and then all of a sudden it was a great idea. So that's what we ultimately ended up doing. Moved into one side. We had a tenant on the other side. They paid our mortgage, and then we had a little bit left over. I ended up getting my CDL, making a little bit more money, so we were able to save up. We did the same thing for the second house. So we ended up doing 5% down on a conventional loan, moved into it, rented out the unit we were in. So we did that 3 times. And then after that, we had enough cash flow coming in every month that we were able to save that up. And then we took it and bought fixer-upper properties instead of just turnkey properties and started, doing more of the construction, more of the rehabbing, have that equity built into the property. and then rent them out for maximum cash flow.
Okay, so so you moved from, like, how often were you moving in this, or did you stay in? Sorry, might have missed that. Did you stay in one, or?
Yeah, so we stayed in the first one for a year, the second one for a year, and the third one for about 6 months before we
Okay,
bought our own house.
right. Okay. Yeah, I love house hacking. I haven't. I have some relatives that have done it. I've got a guest coming on in a couple of weeks that is almost an expert in it. So you're doing this house hacking, and then was that catalyst kind of to be able to the real estate portfolio? Like, we do see this, but I kind of want you to dissect that a little bit.
Yeah, so that was the catalyst that got us moving into being able to purchase more properties without having to move into them. We were able to go from, having to move into these where as the cash flow builds up and you start buying more properties and you start getting more of a monthly return, you're able to basically become self-funding, where the cash flow coming in is enough every month to start building up so that every couple months I can buy a house without using, my money. It's the rental income money.
Right. And then you said you got your realtor's license. Where in this journey, at what point did you decide to do that?
So that was actually last year. I went and got my real estate license. We ended up moving out of New York almost 4 years ago, came down to Georgia, and that's where we're at now. And then last year, it was just one of those things where, I realized I could help a lot of people in the same place that I was in. And I really wanted to do that. And I knew having that real estate license was kind of going to give me a little bit more access to be able to help people versus just being a traditional investor.
Okay. So 29 units, and the majority of the portfolio you said are duplexes, or there's a little bit of a mix now?
Yep. So we've got single family, duplexes, and triplexes.
Okay. So speak to me about mobile homes. I mean, you reached out. I don't invest in them. I mean, up here in Winnipeg, Canada, obviously we have different options there, but what made you even look at that asset class?
So when we moved to Georgia, we realized compared to upstate New York, the housing prices are astronomical. In upstate New York, you can buy a turnkey house, stick built, for $125,000. Coming down here, it's so much different. It's 300, 400, 500,000 just for like your standard house. And it was one of those things where it was like there's not really any affordable housing left for people that, the average American can only afford about $225,000, $250,000 house. And yet you've got all these houses in the $400,000 or $500,000 range. Where's the divide? Like, where do you find the opportunity to provide affordable housing? And that's how we found the mobile homes, the manufactured homes.
Okay. So manufactured homes, maybe explain that just again for the audience. What are we talking about here?
So your manufactured homes are built in a factory. In the case of a double wide, it comes in two pieces. They bring it out, you buy land, you clear the land, you get a nice space for it, you grade it, and then they come out and they actually set it on footers, concrete. They build up concrete footers for it so that it can sit level, and they come out and they level it, and then it's what you call marry it together, so that way it's an actual home, and it sits on that land, and you have the option to either leave it separate from the land and have like a DMV, like a tag, or you can marry it to the land and retire the title, and then it becomes part of the land as well, the improvement of the land.
I see. So it's either a vehicle, like a mobile home, if you will, that's on the land, and it's a designation. And then if you want, you can sort of say, okay, it's no longer a vehicle, it's a house that's an asset, part of the land. It's now being sold together?
Yes, as long as it has a permanent foundation.
Okay. So I have so many questions, Shawn. So let's back up, because I don't want to be all over the place. When you speak about a manufactured home, what comes to my mind is an RTM, ready to move home that we might have up here. But sometimes those are, again, they're built the same way, cottages and things like that. They might be double wides. but not necessarily in terms of thinking about it as a mobile home that's being put on blocks, because a lot of the RTMs up here are being put either onto a slab or onto a poured foundation for a basement. Is there any difference there?
I don't think there's really much of a difference. I've actually never heard the term RTM. That might just be more of a Canadian thing.
Sure.
But generally speaking, based on the way you're explaining it, I'd say it's almost exactly the same.
Okay. Because when you said mobile home, I was thinking like trailer park or investing in trailer parks. I think what you're talking about here is more of a, well, why don't I let you explain it instead of me guessing?
So it's exactly the same thing. Mobile home parks. So generally you
Okay.
can have it in a park or you can have it on an individual lot.
Okay.
So what we
And what
do is
are you
individual
proposing
lots.
here? Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh, you're good. So what we do is we do individual lots where you
Okay.
can actually buy that mobile home or that manufactured home and put it on your own personal lot. And as an investor, you can buy those mobile homes, put it on a lot that you've purchased, do the foundations, the decks, all that, get them ready to sell, and then you can sell them off to an end buyer, someone that's looking to live in that property or rent it out.
Okay. And what attracted you to this, considering that your personal investments are in singles, duplexes, and triplexes?
It was, well, number one, it's always an opportunity. Anytime an opportunity presents itself, you want to take advantage of those opportunities because they don't always last long. And two, it was the aspect of this is truly affordable housing. This is something that most people can afford that are working.
Okay, so run some numbers for me then, maybe some comparisons. This is probably anybody in North America listening, but let's take maybe scale it. Maybe there's an average, you're in a market with a $300,000 single family home price, okay, for a 3-bedroom, 1,400 square foot house. Speak to me in that same market what the cost would be to buy land and put a mobile manufactured home onto it.
So I can tell you just from the mobile homes we're doing right now, generally, if you stay outside of the bigger cities, you're going to be roughly between $10,000 and $15,000 an acre.
Okay.
You're going to buy that. You're going to buy the mobile home. It's going to be between 70 and 80,000. The permits are usually $700-800, nothing crazy. And then you've got your guy that's going to come out and he's going to clear your land. He's going to grade it. You need a septic tank in a lot of the counties that we work in, and that's for your sewage. So that's going to be roughly about $12,000. You're going to have somebody come in and pour your concrete footers. That's usually about $4,000. Your mobile home's going to arrive. They're going to marry it together. Your delivery of that mobile home is usually about $12,000. Once it's on the property and it's married together, you're going to need to do your block foundation, your permanent foundation. That's about $5,500. And then you've got decks that are about $7,000. And the guy that does your septic tank, in our case, also does your water lines. And then you have your electric and your water taps. Depending on what county you're in, your water tap price changes. For one of the counties we're in, it's $1,600. And then you have your electrical come out, which is generally about $1,000.
Okay. So all in, that sounds like another, I don't know, 25-ish?
Yes.
Okay. So 25 plus your land, plus how much did you say for a typical manufactured home?
Usually between 70 and 80,000 for brand new.
Okay. So all in, what would you estimate there for everything?
Generally, you're going to be all in, depending on the price of the land. It's going to be somewhere between 140 and 155, 160.
Okay. And that's in a market, like I said, that happens to have about a $300,000 entry point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then what are you doing with these? Are you renting them out? Are you selling these to ordinary folk? What's the end goal here?
So it's going to be up to the investor. Some of them rent them out. Well, some of them sell them. If you sell them, generally you're going to be somewhere in the 215 to 240 range on a sales price.
Okay. Okay, so there's an upsell here too.
Absolutely.
And then if somebody chooses to rent them out, so you've got a 200 to 240K market value. You're into it for 140 to 160. So you're getting about 50 to 75K of equity instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And then you choose to rent it out. Obviously, put down 25%. I know I'm doing numbers and I'm not going to have this on the screen, audience. I apologize, but kind of doing my Rain Man thing. Mortgage of 120. What are we renting these things out for in this perceived market?
Depending on the area here in Georgia, they can go anywhere from about 12 to 1500 a month.
Okay. So, I mean, the 300K house, what are they renting for in your market right now?
Usually somewhere between 25 to 2700.
Okay, so about an extra $1,000, but at the same time, you have that the mortgage is a lot less.
Mm-hmm.
And these are brand new, right?
Brand new.
So now you're getting maximum rent. What about things like maintenance costs? I mean, with brand new, obviously there's a good thing there too, another benefit.
So the beautiful thing about it is they come with 10-year warranties because they are brand new.
Okay. Yeah, very intriguing. What has the interest been like? Like, how long have you been doing this?
So we've been doing it for about 8 months now. The interest is astronomical. We have preferred lenders that we're using. We're just constantly just feeding them leads. We do a lot of social media ads, and people, give us their emails, and we send them out to the preferred lenders, or get them scheduled to do showings and stuff. And it's been insane.
So what about the? You said like 10 to 15. I'm looking down here because I have my notebook. 10 to 15K an acre. How big of a lot are you trying to scope out for these things?
So it's going to depend on the county. Each county has a minimum lot size that's required for manufactured homes. The county that we're typically in is an acre and a half.
Okay. And I mean, at least up here in Canada, if we're rural like that with a septic tank or septic field, I mean, a lot of those rules come into play. Would that be the same down there where you are?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a reason why you're targeting rural rather than, I don't know, a suburbial lot or something closer to a city center?
So unfortunately, when you get near bigger cities, there's a lot more restrictions. They don't allow mobile homes in a lot of areas. There's very limited spots that you can actually put mobile homes in when you get into bigger cities. And I actually just read an article before I hopped on here. Hagerstown, Maryland is actually loosening their regulations on mobile homes. And they actually put like 200 out last year because the housing prices are getting so out of control that this is becoming the most affordable option for people. And it's not like it used to be back in the 60s and 70s. These are nice mobile homes. These are top notch. I mean, you get the same upgrades in these that you would a stick-built house.
Oh, I know. And you could argue that they're better built because they have to withstand the rigors of delivery.
Absolutely. And they're built to HUD specification.
Yeah. Would you want to expand on that?
So HUD is your governing agency that says they have to be built basically to the same standard as a stick-built house. You have to have certain spacing on your framing. You have to have certain insulation. You have to use certain floor. You can't just throw them together like they used to be able to do before the 70s.
Okay. So up to code, obviously. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I say, I'm going to sort of expand on that for the audience, at least with my knowledge here of what we call RTMs, manufactured homes. When you have basically a house that's stick built on site, you pour the foundation or the whatever it's going to be, or a basement, and you're stick building this thing all over. And that's fine. The framing is there, and then you're going to put typically your wallboard or your drywall, and and you're finishing it. But then it gets painted. And everybody knows when you've got a house that moves, what happens? We get cracks in it. So at least up here in Canada, when we build these RTMs, quite honest, we might put plywood or OSB on top of the studs before the wallboard or the drywall, because it has to withstand the rigors of that delivery. and prevent the cracking and everything else. So I would argue that those houses are better built. They probably have better sound transmission class type of filters on it too. Would you agree?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so what we're talking about investment here too. I'm curious. Passive investing. This is a term that you used for this. They might not understand that. Can you maybe explain what it means in the context of mobile home investments?
So when it comes to the mobile home investment side, we have the experience, the knowledge, and the systems in place, especially right here in Georgia and parts of Florida, that we can actually do A to Z, one-stop shop. An investor comes in, all they have to do is write the checks. We handle everything from ordering the mobile home to pulling all the permits, the grading, the septics, the decks, everything. So all they have to do is write checks, and then they get a big check back at the end.
Okay, and that's as an investment, presumably because they're injecting funds into the project, and then it's going to be sold?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What about if somebody wants to come in and put a tenant in place? What happens then? What do they do?
They could either do, so we have a management fee. That's what we charge to go along with this. So that management fee comes into play when they sell it at the end. But if they do choose to go ahead and put a tenant in there, they can either pay us out on the management fee in cash, not cash necessarily, but check, wire, or they can do a cash out refi, however they choose to do it. We just have the management fee that we have to be taken care of as well.
Now, when you say management, you're talking the project itself, right?
Yes, from start to finish.
Okay. And then at that point, then somebody wants to put a tenant in place. When I think management, I'm thinking property management because we have a property management company as well. Do you refer out so that, like, because I'm thinking an out-of-town investor might reach out to you guys, write the checks, but they want to actually get passive income and cash flow from this because it sounds like there's a good opportunity here. How would you direct them at that point?
So we actually have one of our great agents here. She's actually filling in as our broker right now. She also does property management. So we actually can refer them to property management as well.
Did you know there's a big difference between investing in real estate and becoming a real estate investor? People become real estate investors all the time. They get into a flip or conversion project or even dealing with long-term tenants, and they come back to us to tell us the same thing. It's like having another full-time job. I don't know about you, but that's not what we call investing. Investing in real estate is about having your money work for you in a way that is passive, consistent, most importantly, hands-off. So which one are you? Do you want to be a real estate investor or do you want to invest in real estate? For those that are open to investing in real estate and having your money work for you, listen up. Garrett Wong has spent decades helping thousands of property owners navigate the ins and outs of property investing and management through his award-winning company, Upper Edge Property Management. Their new division, Wong Capital, is currently involved in multiple projects, from single-family flips to multifamily development. Are you looking for a healthy return on your invested capital, or perhaps becoming a joint venture partner? If so, go to www.wongcapitalcorp.com/invest to book a time to speak with Garrett and his team to see if there's a fit. Once again, the link is www.wongcapitalcorp.com/invest. Now, back to the show.
Okay. So then it truly becomes a long-term passive investment.
Yep, and all in-house.
Okay. What do you see in terms, I know it's only been about 8 months, but you said, things are really, really busy, lots of interest. What is the ratio that you've seen between people who want to just get the quick money versus the slow nickel, if you will, for the
So I would
long-term
say
rentals?
generally as a whole, from what we've seen and the investors that we work with currently, they're all selling them.
Okay. Why would you think that is? It's just because the upside is just so good for the short money?
I think for the fact that it's about a 4-month process, start to finish, and you can get quick cash, and a lot of them, I don't know, well, manufactured homes in the past, there's kind of that stigma that, they don't hold value. They wear down super fast. And I think a lot of our investors don't want to hold on to that with no appreciation in the mobile home. So
Okay.
I think it's just kind of that stigma that, if it's not going to value 10 years from now, then I should just sell it off.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I've got my long-term property management hat on there. So, because passive investing, of course, is you want a return on your dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And correct me, did you just say 4 months?
Yes.
That is incredibly fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, walk us through again. Just sort of expand on that. So, you said land and like kind of do a deeper dive for the audience.
So step by step, we're going to, find an area that makes sense to buy a parcel of land that's zoned for mobile homes. We're going to go out, we're going to walk it, we're going to make sure that it works, purchase that piece of land, like I said, about 10 to 15K an acre. Once we have the land secured, we're then going to move along. We're going to go and start applying for permits. We're going to pull all the permits that we can. There's very specific orders you have to do them. So it can get complicated, which is why we prefer the passive investor as far as the mobile homes go, just for the fact that them trying to figure out the permits, especially when it changes per county, gets very complicated. From there, once we get the permits, we get our guy out there to clear the land. He grades the land. The initial grading comes out. They'll throw the septic tank in. At that point, the mobile home, generally, I believe it's about 10 days for them to fully build and stock the mobile home. So within 2 weeks, you can get the mobile home out to the land as long as you have the permits. And then the moving company brings it out. They put it together. You've got a little more grading that needs to be done, like around the mobile home, generally in the yard, septic tanks in. You got to connect all your plumbing. Now you need your foundation. You get your decks on during that process. And then there's a couple more permits you have to go through during the process. Make sure that it's up to code. They come out, they check on them, they make sure the work's being done correctly and up to par. Once that occurs, we're going to start marketing them when they're about 80% done, so that we can start bringing people in and showing them, hey, this is what we got going on. And hopefully, the goal is always to have them under contract before they're even finished, so that we can close. Here, it's roughly about 28 days to close.
Wow. Wow, it's so organized. I love it. I mean, I flip a lot of properties here, and I'm thinking minimum it's 4 to 6 months when you flip a property, and you're dealing with older things for probably less profit than what you're talking about. I mean, obviously there's different ways to flip. Up here, flipping, we don't have a lot of like bouncing up and down in terms of property values. So we just have to try to find a distressed property in order to flip it. What you're talking about here is almost a sure thing. However, let's challenge you a little bit. What is the sales like for mobile homes compared to a traditional, detached single family home?
What do you mean by sales? So,
Well, I guess days on market, that type of thing. Obviously, it's a lower price point, so there's a lower barrier to entry. So, I mean, is that basically all it is? And you're just seeing that they sell even faster than comparable types of asset classes?
I would say yes, absolutely, because your audience is different than your traditional buyers. You're in a little bit of an area of people that never thought they would be able to own anything. So when they have an opportunity to own something, they're all over it. And these are people that need affordable housing.
Okay. So my next question then is financing, and I'm going to ask this in two parts: one from the investor themselves, and one from the homeowner. So let's work backwards. Is it harder to find financing on a manufactured home as a first-time home buyer or just a buyer itself compared to a single-family detached?
So we actually have the mobile home dealership license in-house, which also means that when we put it on a permanent foundation and we list that property, it is eligible for USDA, FHA, conventional, all of them.
Okay, so there's no complications.
Not at all.
Okay, not like buying a cottage or something that's not built on,
Nope, it's
stilts.
fully
or something
same
like that.
traditional financing you would get with a stick-built home.
Okay. Well, that's easy. Let me ask the second part question then. As an investor coming in, are there any other types of challenges that you're seeing or can foresee with an investor coming in with cash?
I don't foresee any roadblocks or anything. It's just more so, we have been doing this long enough now that we kind of we're known within the counties that we're in, and that's tremendous. And it makes it a lot easier when you go in and you know the order of everything. Obviously interest rates play a huge part. The higher the interest rates go, it prices people out of the market. So as long as they keep coming down, this is only going to get more and more lucrative.
Okay. And what typically in your market do you have to put down as a down payment?
So are you talking about for the end buyer or for the investor?
For the investor, because you said about 140 to 160 all in.
So the mobile home itself, depending on how many you buy, you can actually get special financing from the manufacturer themselves, and it's 10% down.
Ah, okay. That
So
that's a good wrinkle.
Yeah. So instead of paying 70 to 80,000 in cash for the mobile home, it's 10% down.
Okay. So, and that's because you're ordering it from a factory and it's not attached to the land yet.
That's just the special financing they do through the manufacturer. That if you order so many mobile homes, that they actually do the financing in house.
And then what about the land? How does financing work for that?
So generally, you can go and get more traditional financing on the land, or you can just pay cash. Generally, 10 to 15,000, and it's such a low barrier to entry for what most investors are used to that generally they just buy it cash.
Well, yeah. I mean, you said 10 to 15 an acre. You said acre and a half. Let's even call it 15, and then 10% of a 70 to 80K manufactured home. I mean, so basically you're probably putting in 25 until the end. I mean, there must be something else.
Yeah. So you still have to pay for like the grader, the septic, all that. So generally you're in for somewhere between 45 and 60 on average.
45 and 60 for 4 months. And plus whenever it takes to sell, right? And then
so that what are the typical 30 days to sell it?
Okay. Yeah, I forgot you said it takes 2 weeks to build these things. Incredible. I'm loving this, by the way. I'm my mind is going. Why would I even do my next flip up here in Canada? And I have to worry about it's minus 20 outside today.
It's been cold here too.
we won't. Yeah, we won't go there though. We won't go there, Shawn. And then I'm trying to do the math here. Like we said, 60 to 80K. So if you can come up with, I mean, that's almost like a 60, 70 ROI, isn't it?
Yeah.
Am I doing my 60% ROI even higher? It's almost double.
Yeah, you should be right around there.
Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm just, I was going to ask you what the advantages are. I think we're covering a lot of them. Do you see any other risks or disadvantages in this asset class?
The only risks that I see associated with it is, the rules, the ordinances. As growth pushes more into areas, there becomes more restrictions, and obviously, the more restrictions, the less we can do in those areas. That's why we generally stay outside of those. But like here in Georgia, we're right up the I-85 corridor. And I mean, all the growth is coming up right to Greenville, South Carolina. So I say probably about another 5 to 7 years before it's going to be difficult in this area to be able to get it done. But there's many, many areas that it can happen in any state, really. You just got to work within their rules.
Okay. And when you say getting it done, I mean, if you've had it done already, the rules are kind of just sort of creeping outwards outside of that rural center. Is that like what we're talking about?
Yeah. Once the growth starts coming up, they generally start getting a little more restrictive on where the mobile homes can be, because they want the big fancy houses. They want people to drive up I-85 or get off an exit and see these big, beautiful buildings. There's such a stigma with manufactured homes that it's still basically like that 1950s, 1960s thought process of this is just like a shack. that,
Yeah.
people are like, I don't want those anywhere near our city center. But the reality is it's not like that anymore. These are built almost to the same standard as any other home.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that you have taken the route of buying an actual parcel of land. Is there any interest, or have you explored an actual park, and what would that look like?
So we've thought about doing mobile home parks. We haven't done one yet, and we will in the future. It's just really learning the codes, learning the process. It's a lot more expansive. It's almost like doing a development for stick built homes. That's kind of the standard, even though it's a lot simpler process for us to get the mobile homes out there. The general consensus of getting the approvals, getting the zoning changes if necessary, and getting the permits pulled for it is just, there's a lot more paperwork involved in knowing the process. And until we know that process start to finish, that's just not something that we're going to explore until we're firm on it and know that it's going to work.
Okay. So what makes a good area for a target for you guys? What are the criteria you're looking at?
The biggest thing is zone for mobile homes.
Okay.
Generally a rural area. That's where you're going to find a lot of people that generally just kind of want somewhere to live. They're renting and they would prefer to own something. And a lot of these people, they just don't think they're ever going to own anything. And this is an opportunity for them to get in. And one of the big things that we've actually been doing is we've been doing closing cost assistance. So our investors are actually giving anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 in closing cost assistance. And some of these people are getting in a home for as little as $1,000.
Wow. And are they getting the money back, like these investors?
It'll come off of the top, off of their profit, because it's assistance, but it also helps sell these houses even faster.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
when people
Even
see
lower
I can get
barrier
in
to
for
entry.
$1,000 into a home,
And it's brand new.
brand new
Right.
with 10-year warranty.
It's brand new. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Boy, so with anybody who's wanting to try to get into this on their own, let's say that they're not in Georgia, any advice or tips that you might send to them?
I would say learn the codes. That's going to be your biggest thing. You need to know your codes and ordinances, know your state laws and regulations, and your county and the city if you're doing it inside city limits. So it's expansive. You really need to look into it. You really need to learn the process, but it's very doable. And you do not need a real estate license to do it. The only thing you need the real estate license for is to sell the home at the end.
Right, but of course you could sub that out if you really needed to,
Absolutely.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I think this has been really, really, really helpful. So, in terms of trends and looking ahead, what do you see in this space, and how can potential investors prepare for those developments?
I see we're going to go in two directions. We're going to have more of a renter nation, where people are renting instead of living because they don't want the responsibility of maintaining a yard in the house. And you're going to have people that go towards the mobile homes, the manufactured homes, because they are affordable. And people want somewhere affordable that they can live so that they can live outside of paying bills.
Okay. Any other tips or tricks that you would recommend for people here?
Get involved. Start investing. If you're on the fence, make the jump. It's hands down, in my opinion, it's the best thing you could ever do. It's the greatest alternative or supplement to a 401k that you could ever have. And historically, the stock market's been 10%. I mean, your ROI in real estate can be exponential if you do it right and get with the right people.
Yeah, no, for sure. I wanted to pivot for a moment because we've got a couple more minutes here. Entrepreneur, like I'm very passionate about being an entrepreneur, business owner. Can you share maybe a little bit about your journey, that pivotal moment of, you kind of touched on it, getting out of the trucking industry, but what was the light bulb that said, I have to do this?
One of the big things, you know, just the back breaking work. My shoulders started hurting, my knees started hurting. So I was actually delivering the grocery, 40,000 pounds on a trailer, into like 7-Eleven convenience stores, running up and down a ramp. And, your back hurts, your knees hurt, your shoulders hurt. You're sleeping in the back of a moving truck. It's just not good sleep. There just has to be a better way.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we've all done that. And now that you're, a business owner, an entrepreneur, I mean, how many employees? What does the operation look like?
So we actually run it just right here in our real estate office. It's generally the agents in the office. We have about 4 or 5 agents that do it pretty consistently.
Okay. And then obviously all of the research that you guys have had to do to, I mean, you're kind of glossing over it because I don't think it would be that easy for somebody to just go off into whatever county they are. Any mistakes that you guys made at the very beginning that you learned from?
So the first round of mobile homes that we did, we actually bought from a retailer, a third party retailer. They had the mobile home license, and it was a nightmare. These mobile homes showed up missing siding, missing light bulbs, missing cabinets that were just crooked in the house, and we had a hard time getting these people out here to fix it, even though it was their responsibility to fix it because it happened before we owned it and in transit.
So when you say retailer, you're talking about a dealer.
Yes.
As opposed to the factory.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how did you, or can anybody go to a factory?
So generally you have to have a mobile home dealership license in order to go to the factory. You could realistically go to the factory, but the odds of them selling to you are next to none because they do look for volume.
Okay. So you guys have your license then?
Yes.
Okay. So so again, I love this kind of stuff, right? So you buy from this retailer, it goes sideways on you. You've got all these warranty issues. How hard, or what was the next step in your thought process? Hey, maybe we should go get our own license.
So we actually ended up stepping in. We have a handyman service that's connected to our brokerage as well. So we ended up having to step in and take on a lot of that work ourselves out of pocket. And, it was just one of those things where it's like, hey, this is the test run. We need to make sure this is even a viable option. Even with us doing all this extra work, there's still profit involved. There's still great margins. And then from there, it's like, hey, we can bypass this problem if we just had the license. So one of our other agents here in the office, he actually went out and got the license.
Okay. Because for the retailer, when you buy something from them, who's doing all of that grading and lot clearing and marrying the things together, all those things you said at the beginning of the podcast?
So we still had to go out and find our own people to be able to do all the other things. The only thing the retailer does is sell you the mobile home and bring it to you.
Okay. Well, delivery is delivery, right?
Yep.
Once you figure that out, you can control it a little bit better, maybe even get it cheaper. Yeah, what a no-brainer. I mean, that's just brilliant that you guys did that. Okay, and then my final question regarding sort of the business. When you are now in the day-to-day, what does scaling look like for you guys? Because I'm always interested in that, employees and how do we build this and what happens if people listen to this podcast and now you've got 100 people trying to get in. Well, I mean, good problem to have.
Absolutely.
But how does scaling look like for you in this business?
So we're going to push for 200 this year. We're going to push for 200 mobile homes this year. And scaling, we can bring in other agents. We can train them underneath us and make sure that they understand the process. We can teach them the process, generally so that we don't have to be involved with every step. We kind of delegate that responsibility to another agent. And we'd also like to get outside of, Georgia. And
of course.
Look into other states. And I mean, I'm not a huge fan of reading, but when it comes to the real estate side, man, I'll read the Bible of real estate.
Absolutely. No, that's amazing. Very enlightening. Before we end the podcast, I ask every guest this question, so my audience knows this is coming. So this is the Investing to Win podcast. How do you define success, and what does winning look like for you?
Success, and I know it's different for everybody. Success for me is seeing other people succeed with me. As we grow, as we continue to do more and more and push to be the best person we can be that day. And my big philosophy is, especially I tell my kids this every day, you need to give 100% to what you're doing for what you have that day. It doesn't have to be 100% every single day. It has to be 100% of what you have to give that day. That's success. Becoming just a little bit better every day. And as you grow, to bring other people with you. Doing it by yourself, it gets lonely. Real estate, I'm sure real estate can be a lonely journey. Investing can be lonely. And, when you have the opportunity to find people that are like-minded, like yourself and myself, to be able to bring them along in the journey and really do it together is a complete game changer.
It's a win-win.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for enlightening me. I learned a lot today, another asset class that I almost barely knew existed. And I'll throw your contact info in the show notes so people know how to get in touch with you if they're interested. And we'll do a whole bunch of promotion on social media on this as well.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me on.
I hope you enjoyed the episode today on the Investing to Win podcast. Make sure to hit subscribe on whichever platform you're listening to this on. If this episode made you think of another investor, take a screenshot and share this podcast episode with them. Investing to Win is not only about helping you to win more, but WIN actually stands for WISE, Investors Network. It's where we help our investors build a hands-off portfolio and have passive investments work for them. To see how you can potentially partner with us, go to www.wongcapitalcorp.com/invest to book a time to speak with Garrett and his team to see if there's a fit. Once again, the link is www.wongcapitalcorp.com/invest. All links can be found in the description below. Until next time.